Are you out there wondering, how the hell am I going to get rid of all these comic books? If you're in that situation, stick around. I'll help you. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Caps Cave. Today we're going to touch on where and how to sell your comic book collection. Should you go to a shop, online, face-to-face? What's the best way to do it? Today we're going to find out a few ways. So option one, which is where a lot of people end up, is going to a comic or collectible store. It's effective. They'll usually buy everything you got. The issue is you're going to have low offers because they have to make money. So you're usually going to get somewhere around 40 to 50% of what your valued is. So if you've got a first print of TMNT #1 that's worth 12 grand, they might give you 6. It sounds harsh, but they're looking at it as that book may sit on the wall for the next 2 years before someone else with 12 grand wants to buy it. So they're looking out for their best interest. Some shops are better. They'll give you a little more. If you're trading in, you can definitely get more in value in trade versus selling it. But those are things you have to watch out for. If you're going to a store, they may offer a consignment. So consignment is going to be they're selling your books for maximum amount of money, and instead of you getting full price or them taking half, they'll take a smaller percentage of each sale. Or they may do a percentage of the whole sale if there's, several books versus, 100 books that they're trying to sell. The next option is going to be online.
What the fuck is the internet?
So you have sites like eBay, Whatnot, Mercari. Those are all seller-friendly sites. They're pretty simple to use. Whatnot is probably the easiest for a seller, just the way that the back end works on once a purchase is made, shipping labels, wham bam, thank you ma'am, you're out the door. You're slapping a label on a box and handing it to USPS or UPS, however you decided to ship it. Very, very simple. eBay is not terrible, but I haven't done much on Mercari to know much about theirs. The problem with online is you are going to still lose a percentage to any one of those sites. Now some of them will run specials where they take a smaller percentage, just trying to get more sellers on the site. The other issue you have is you're now putting the faith of whatever you're trying to sell in the hands of the postman. Now, I don't know if you've been to war with a postman, but I have duked it out with a mailman or 3. Some are better than others. The Amazon people, if I see them, it's on site, of course. But, and they're just doing their job. Sometimes it's not them that busts it or cracks it or folds it or pinches it. Sometimes it was that way before it ever got tossed into their mail truck. Now, sometimes, you just get a guy that's mad at the world and he's not going to take real great care of your nerdery. So to keep that in mind. So always ship defensively. And so when I say that, I mean, make sure it is bubble wrapped or packaged well. There's no movement. Ship it in a proper box. If it's a comic box, make sure you're using, tri-fold boxes that have the holders in them and everything's taped and sealed and tight. It limits how much damage can really be done. If you're shipping a first appearance of Venom and you send it to me in a manila folder, I'm gonna be upset. And so then on the back end of that, whoever receives it, you have to deal with, you're hoping that they're happy with how they received and what they received. So making a listing, be very detailed. You can never take too many pictures, corners, edges, spine, interior, show the color of the pages, because if you don't, then you can always risk somebody being upset, requesting a refund, reporting you, whatever, and you want to avoid that, especially if you're trying to sell multiple things. one bad review on eBay could, wreck you for good. Next up, you got a marketplace. So we're talking Facebook, Instagram, things of that nature. Facebook, if you've dealt with anybody on a Facebook marketplace, the freaks of Facebook are beyond intolerable at times. There can be some great transactions, but more often than not, that you're going to get some sort of idiot that is going to try to lowball you for whatever. They may not have any real interest in whatever it is you're selling. And then you have the 400 fake accounts that will try to get you to sell it with, phone cards or, whatever. So you have to deal with, there's a lot of hassle that goes into it. So, if you're going to go Facebook or Instagram, Facebook, the best thing to do is find groups. There are buy, sell, trade groups for comic books especially. There's some for omnibus. Jim Mint has a great group that does, they do omnibus, statues, comics, everything. Some groups are focused with, age, Silver Age, Golden Age, current, modern, whatever. Some of them are key issues. You can only sell key issues. If you join one of these groups, make sure you read the rules, because you're inevitably going to have some douchebag that's like, that's not a real key issue. But, you're just trying to move some books. Maybe you need to pay the bills. Maybe your wife is mad or found out how much you actually spent on whatnot. Anyways, so Facebook, if you're going to do Facebook, I would highly suggest the groups. Some of these groups here are excellent. And you can also go Instagram. Instagram's going to depend heavily on your following. Obviously, if you have 3 followers on Instagram, whatever you post, unless those 3 people are just really interested in what you've got, you're going to have a tough time selling it. Instagram, there are several groups on Instagram, or pages on Instagram, that will do consignments, just like a store. But like I said before, you're going to be paying some sort of percentage. So, your best bet on maximum value is going to be a Facebook group. And hopefully you get lucky and hit, somebody that's local. But if you don't get somebody that's local, you're with Facebook, you can at least talk to some of these people. So when you're shipping, it's not as big of a deal. You can also be very clear on what you're doing. Something great to add to any sell post is video. Do a video of you turning the pages, showing what kind of condition the book's in, finally fine-tooth combing over the corners and edges, back cover, staples, everything matters when you're selling a comic book. Especially with the CGC, they're kind of, so you never know what they're going to do. So you want to make sure that you give them the most accurate description you can give them, so that there's no confusion in the end. Last one is going to be kind of an oddball, off-the-wall market, is an antique market. I know with the hipster movement, there is a lot of antiquing that goes on. When I'm doing it, I call it mantiquing, so that my wife doesn't make fun of me, but whatever. The issue with that is going to be, you got to pay for a booth. So, if you're selling a lot, maybe you can afford a booth. Maybe you find one that's not super high rent on their little booths. The issue with antique markets are there's not a lot of security there. Most of them are ran by an elderly couple that, if somebody wanted to take what you got, they're going to take it. With antique booths, if you can get some sort of locking glass case or something like that, you're better. But you're still going to have, every antique booth, they're not there to pay attention to your comic books. They're there to pay attention to the products overall. So somebody wants to look at it and see it, they're going to pull it out of the bag and thumb through it and touch it with their greasy chicken fingers. And, whatever. Sucks to suck if something happens to your book. But you're also going to have very limited customer visit. So, I don't know if you've ever been to an antique mart, but most of them don't have a, line out the door trying to get in. And so you have to be aware of where you're at. Some places here locally, Kansas City, has got some bigger markets that are, have constant movement. Other things you can do antique market related is flea markets. Some places will do, once or twice a year, have a big flea market, and people will come in. You can rent a table for $20 or something, and lay out your wares there, and you might have a better chance of selling, but you're playing to a market that you don't know is going to be there. And on that same line, you can try to do like a con. If you get on Facebook and you look up, Comic Cons, there are a lot of them. Very small ones that are still held in hotels like the old ones, and you can get a table pretty cheap and try to sell them in there. You're going to get your best value selling in person, at a con or on a Facebook group, something where somebody's looking for what you've got. You're going to have a tough time selling it otherwise. And then there's so many other variables that go into the back end of it. Shipping, customer complaints, all that stuff, rent on a booth, or, percentages on any of those sites. So, if you got any questions, hit up the comment section, like, subscribe if you'd like. If not, catch y'all on the flip. Peace.